Imagine landing the biggest deal of your career while your stock is trading near all-time lows. That's exactly what one ASX company just pulled off today. And it could be the ultimate setup for a major breakout. We'll cover whether this is a once-in-a-decade buying opportunity or just another false start. Plus, one real estate stock has just unlocked over 300 million in capital. So could this be the perfect catalyst to buy the dip before the next leg up? And a major structural shift could be their spark one popular ASX stock desperately needs. As always, we'll let the charts do the talking, showing you the key levels and setups that could shape the next big move. Welcome to Wealth Within's Hot Stock Tips. With over 2 decades of experience training over 30,000 traders, we bring you what actually works in the stock market. Joining me today is Wealth Within analyst Pedro Banales, and I am senior analyst Philip Tortevsky. So let's dive straight in. Welcome, Pedro.
G'day, Phil. How's it going?
Very good, mate, and thank you for joining us today. So let's dive straight in. As mentioned, first up is Electro Optic Systems. Now, I want to bring your attention to the screen and have a look at the announcement that Electro Optic Systems has made today, because, Pedro, this is a monster announcement. It basically signed today or announced that it's secured a new order for remote weapon systems amounting to 31 million euros or approximately $53 million. Now, if you're wondering why is this important, well, basically, if we scroll on down, the order or this deal basically makes it the biggest deal, and I'll get to the area where it says that, down this final paragraph through here. This order represents the largest order to date for the EOS Slinger counter-drone RWS, making it the largest ever EOS order for naval RWS weapon systems, if you will. So, I mean, I want to get your thoughts first on this. Obviously, a company that is trading relatively near all-time lows. We're going to discuss that shortly and get into the chart of why this combination of a relatively low share price with major news could be that once-in-a-lifetime type opportunity. But first up, your thoughts, obviously, Pedro, in the defense space, this company, major contract, the biggest it's ever had. Share price hasn't really taken off just yet. I mean, is this going to bode well? Obviously, it's we're recording here during the day. The share price has been active throughout the day. I believe it might be up 10% today. But even with a 10% rise, are you still seeing further upside from here?
I believe that there is further upside for this stock, and the chart was telling us this for multiple weeks now. And like you said, we'll get onto the chart a little bit later on, but this is a huge deal for EOS. I mean, they mention a Western European country. Of course, they can't disclose which country it is, but they're essentially retrofitting their laser, a counter-drone weapon into a Navy ship. Now, if this comes out well on the other side, then you rest assured that they're going to get more orders. So, I mean, that's the fundamental side of things. We have seen that their EPS was lagging and their PE ratio was in negative. So we'll see if this turns things around in the future. But I believe that the chart is going to tell us the most exciting thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get straight to that and bring up the chart on your screen right now. And I mean, to me, let's start things off on the monthly chart, because there are a few things, like you said, Pedro, that are lining up in terms of a technical angle that have given foresight the likely scenario that played out today was desperately going to happen or was on the horizon. And I mean, the first thing to keep in mind, I've got this rectangle box here or level of support back at around 27 cents. Since the beginning of this, or the history of this stock, since 2001, look how many times it's come back and bounced on 27 cents or thereabouts, up to between 27 and 50, before making major legs higher. I mean, talk about technical analysis and giving it a tick in terms of why it's so important to know price levels on a chart, even 20 years later, still having impact on this stock. And, that is why we're such big proponents of this kind of stuff, because it really does help you identify the when to get into the market. It's one thing knowing what to buy, but it's a whole nother ballgame getting in at the right time and knowing the when. And this is why that chart helps so much. And I mean, most recently, we found a huge basing period around 2023, around this significant low that's been providing bounces. We're starting to get that next leg higher. And this is the part I wanted to mention. Obviously, there is a little bit of support, resistance at around $1.76. So that's a level to keep in mind if you are looking to formulate a trading strategy on this one. But that being said, it's up around 10% today. So I'll add a 10% level from here, which kind of takes it somewhere around there, which is still under that level of resistance. But what we're talking about is the nature of this particular pullback. And since making the run up, you can see how sellers have tried valiantly for basically the same time, March 2024 to May 2025. Basically the same time that it's been rising, it's been falling. But the falls have only managed to fall half of that rise and give a beautiful technical pattern that we do teach here. And that is basically one of these unfoldings that give you a very clear indication when you see something like this following an uptrend, that the market is generally with a high degree of probability looking to break out to the upside. And we've seen that now. We've seen the break. So I think everything bodes well for further upside on EOS from my perspective, especially if we can break above this $1.70 level with some serious conviction. I think there's some long-term opportunity in here as well, not just short-term. So I'd love to get your thoughts here, mate. What are you seeing?
Oh, mate, absolutely. I mean, we must have come from the same school because I've got the same level marked out. So let's get into my chart. And just, I wanted to highlight some other quick aspects. So first of all, on the monthly, we can see these accumulation type patterns forming in the history of the stock before these major runs up. So we have seen that more recently. So if things bode well, then expect another breakout. Now, this is the time to be looking at this stock because once it runs quite quickly. Now, on the weekly chart, that pattern that you've outlined, I've got it outlined here, a bit of a wedge pattern, looking pattern, but we have seen this before. And just as early as 2023, before the breakout. So if this manages to break out, and it has broken up around that $1.50 today. If it continues that and we see high volume, then this stock is ready to go. And, it's got huge upside potential. Yeah. I really like this one.
Absolutely. Now, I just wanted to get your thoughts, dive in a little further, because right now, obviously, traders are going to be looking at this going, oh, well, okay, does it look like a buy today? And rather than getting to the buying or selling aspects, I want to really talk about short-term, what potentially is likely to unfold here, because that's what's going to give, I guess, our viewers out there the concrete information in terms of what comes next. So if we go back to that chart, from looking at this particular pattern that is unfolding on the screen, generally speaking, it is not uncommon for this pattern to be met with a strong breakout, but then for the pattern to be tested. So something like this is potentially what is likely to occur. Oh, sorry, I've got the wrong marker up. But if we get a breakout, and what is quite common with patterns is that they come back and get tested, or we could get the alternate scenario, like you said, given the nature of this stock, is that it just breaks all the way up. So when you're looking at these two alternatives and trying to dissect where the best opportunity to get in, what are you, I guess, leaning more toward with this play? Is it one that you should potentially be looking at opportunities on the onset of that confirmation, or do you wait for it to give, a further test before making that, before thinking about getting involved?
Yeah, definitely. With these types of stocks, you need to be a little bit more calm and don't chase it. Don't chase the stock up. If you see it today going up 15, 16%, don't just get in thinking that you're going to miss out. So definitely you'd want to see a little bit of a retrace. You want to get in at the most opportune time. You don't want to be that person getting in at the very top or just before a pullback at that level that you've marked there, only for it to get sold off. And then you sell out thinking that you're going to make losses, only for the stock to take off again. So definitely you'd want to see a little bit of a retrace at the moment. 20% in one day is a big move. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Yeah.
Great advice. All right. Now, on that point, obviously, we did mention some techniques, particularly stuff like the trend line. All of that is available in Dale's book, How to Beat the Managed Funds. It is free. You just have to pay the shipping. And if you do want an introduction into a lot of the techniques we do here, also how to structure portfolios, that is a great way to start. If you do want to get serious about your trading, though, and get more in depth, go and visit the website, because we have courses out there that will really take things on another level, get you analyzing stuff the way we do here. It is not rocket science, but it does take work. All right, let's now move on. And shortly, we're going to get into a stock which might have just made a major bottoming pattern. But next up is Domino's Pizza. Now, I want to touch on another announcement today with Domino's, which is a big announcement here, Pedro. If we just go to the screen right now and take a look at what we're seeing here with Domino's, obviously, huge announcement coming out today. The CEO will depart. ANZ CEO Kerry Hayman will step down in August 2025 after an exceptional 37-year career with Domino's. So we're talking about a huge change of structure here. 37 years, Pedro, in charge of Domino's. CEO stepping down. I mean, the share price hasn't been loved for a long time. Is this maybe the catalyst or, a direction that the company might now start to see a potential shift, depending on where it goes, who goes in charge and where it moves in terms of direction. But maybe stocks need something like this to shake the core fundamentals up and then potentially get, that new wave of opportunity, because the share price is getting destroyed at the moment. Is this maybe one of those catalysts?
I don't think so. I agree that the stock needs a little bit of a catalyst to get it moving. I don't think that this is it. I mean, yes, 37 years is a long time, but this is a company that would have procedures in place and many strategic things that are ingrained into the business itself that I don't believe that needs a visionary such as a founder or anyone like that to drive it forward. Now, this Greg Steeson that's going to step in, he was head of operations in ANZ in 2024. So he could actually take this company places. We're still yet to see that, but I don't think that the market is going to see this as a huge catalyst to hurry into this stock anytime soon.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's such a big business expanding in Australia and obviously globally, but we are seeing the share price really unloved at the moment. And to me, I mean, right now is an important time to have a look at this stock. So let's go and take a look at the chart on your screen. And let's start with the monthly chart here first, Pedro, because yes, you can clearly see this is a stock that since 2021 in October has basically capitulated. I mean, you take away the chart and look at Domino's pre-2021, even with its pullbacks and whatnot, what we experienced in 2016, you're talking about a stock that looks like some of the best stocks on our market. Long-term growth, share price appreciation, good, strong trends. We fast forward to what's happened recently and very unloved, but very unloved in the sense where it's quite textbook in terms of price action, lower highs, lower lows, not too volatile. It's just been slowly creeping lower and lower and lower. To me, what's quite interesting is that we've broken this level through here. That, was the first sign or potential level where resistance or support could have been found around $37. We broke through it convincingly. And if you look, the stock is now struggling on the other side of that potential support as resistance, which is not uncommon with stocks as you see them. So if I'm looking at Domino's, looking for potential support in the future, really there's not much telling me that or stopping this stock in the way before you get down to about that $3.60 level. And that is quite interesting. We tie that in with some momentum lines also. And, we can clearly see, sure, if you're thinking of just trading through breaks, again, needing that confirmation is the thing that's going to keep you safe. And you can see how many times it's broken through momentum lines, but then failed. And that's because we're not seeing any confirmation in terms of support, bases being tested, higher bases being created. So right now it's quite bearish. Maybe can the news make some changes? Potentially. But like you said, obviously, you're going to have to see that not just in an announcement from a CEO, you're going to have to see the numbers actually start to turn in terms of earnings and all that goes with it to provide some bullishness on this stock. So big news, but share price is saying hold on for a little while longer, I think.
It is. And eventually this stock will turn around and it will be a great investment, but just not yet. I think this is a perfect scenario of not catching a falling knife because, like you said, the momentum is very much down. And I'll go into my chart. I've just got a few simple levels here marked out. So much like you did, I've got that previous level there, which we really need to break through that $36 level really. And we actually failed to break above it on the month of February 2025. We've actually failed to break above it multiple times. So that is going to be a major hurdle for this stock. Now, I've got the $21 level potentially, because we did find some support back here in 2014 and 2000 and March earlier, that 2014 as well. And as we know that, previous support and resistance levels are important, even if it is 10, 11 years in the past. So that, to me, I wouldn't get excited until I see some type of rebound of that $21 level, and then possibly breaking up above that $35 level. And, further to that, on the weekly chart, we do see the big spikes in volumes are occurring on the down moves, the majority anyway. So it looks like the sellers are mostly in control here. Whenever this stock tries to get, bought up, it just gets sold off again. Bought up and then sold off again. And now we are seeing some indecision here and more pointing towards the downside while volume is coming up. So there's multiple factors here that are telling us not quite yet, but I mean, by God, look at this, look at the upside when it does get going. I mean, the all-time high is at $167. So that says something, surely.
Yeah, I mean, I take your point as well, to the point where it's, been falling for the longest time period in history. So at some point, if things can turn around, obviously you're looking at this from the perspective, well, how much further can it fall, given what has happened? Of course, it can go down to zero, but, looking for opportunity here, this would be in the bank of one of those more undervalued type interesting scenarios or opportunities that could turn into something, especially if you're early to the party, but not just yet for Domino's Pizza. But anyway, time now for Lendlease Group, which announced a new joint venture with Crown Estate today. So I want to bring up that announcement right now on the screen, because this, Pedro, is a big one. What has happened? Lendlease announced today a new JV with the Crown Estate. And rather than going through the whole detail of this, the most important part is that through the transaction, Lendlease will accelerate the release of more than $300 million of capital from its longer dated international development book, and will halve its future funding commitments to minus $125 million. And so what that basically means is it's going to add a lot more opportunity for Lendlease moving forward in terms of capital that they can employ to other areas of the business or growth, share price appreciating type opportunities. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that initially? Because again, Lendlease is another one where the share price has been falling away. So maybe this one's the catalyst.
Yeah, I like the news on this one. So I think that it is great for Lendlease. Now, my next question is, how are they going to utilize those funds? Are they going to distribute it to shareholders via a special dividend, or are they going to deploy that back into their business to grow it? Are they going to try to keep the share investors that have been holding onto this stock for multiple years now while it's been going down? Are they going to try to incentivize them, or are they just going to put it back into the business? Now, I know that Lendlease is looking to really come back to the Australian market, focus on that, which I think that would bode well. And I think that that's where their specialty lies. So I think that this is a great step forward. Let's see how they use these funds, right? Yeah,
that's a good point, mate. Let's now go to the chart actually to see what the stock is doing right now. So on the screen is the monthly and weekly. And I mean, look, I've kept it quite basic here, but on the monthly chart, we're coming into a real serious level. And to me, that's why, with what's happened today with Lendlease and the fact that where the share price is trading, this is a must watch right now. And you can clearly see, I mean, even if we bring it up in terms of providing a wider level, but you can see that 1988 we're talking about is when the share price traded at around $5. Back in 2009, again, it traded at $5. And here we are today. We're trading at $5, bouncing off these lows. We hit it back in 2024, again in 2025. By no means am I saying that today is a good place to get involved, given, you don't, as you said earlier, you don't want to be catching falling knives. But to that point, we're at a huge level, historical level. And that is why this one should be on your watch list in terms of waiting for that right opportunity and just applying some of these momentum lines. I mean, we've broken through there. If we hold, that's quite interesting. Or you can apply a bit of a flatter type momentum line through this stock if we just zoom that out through there. and wait for potential the stock to get above that $7, $8 for more confirmation. But just like it did back in 2008, bounce down. If you thought you'd missed the opportunity on this initial run, well then think again, because there were multiple opportunities following that initial spike to give that sustained confirmation that we're going to go higher for longer. And so I would argue even back in 1988, we saw that bounced once, big run up. If you thought you've missed out, I'll zoom that in, bounced for a second and a third time before the market got out into trend. And once it's in trend, that provides opportunities for the long-term player, but also the short and medium-term player who's willing to ride that trend up and get in and out all throughout that. So I think Lendlease is in a real interesting spot. And right now, we can't ignore the fact that it's gone back to historical lows, which have really springboarded this one up for some massive gains. I mean, if we just apply the percentage tool, from back then, you're talking about a 200% rise through there, and even higher 250% rise back on that initial run. So keep a very close eye from my perspective. Have you got anything to add on this one, Pedro?
Well, mate, I think that you covered off that nicely. That level is so strong for this stock multiple times in its history. I think it's looking very interesting. I'd like to see a little bit of a retest, maybe not such a long retracement back up to that level and then trade higher. And ideally, I'd like it to get up around above that $7 mark. So that's the one that I've got marked here on my chart. That $7 has been a strong support level in the past. So I think that if it does say something like this, if it comes up and then comes down and doesn't exactly retrace back down to that support level and then breaks up, I think that we're looking good. And I'll just leave that last trend line there. So if we do something like that type of a pattern, I'll be very excited about this.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, now if you want more hot stock tips, check out our video. These 3 ASX stocks are a bargain right now.